the contribution that you are making in different areas, from climate change to defense to ICT. And Dr. Dlamini, please come to the stage and present the CSIR overview. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malinga. Mr. President, I want to say that I rise on the protocol that has been observed in the interest of time, but also hasten to mention that we are indeed very, very excited and very delighted to have you here at the CSIR today. As you know, the CSIR is your premier research and technology organization. In fact, we are the largest research and technology organization in the continent. We are also very, very grateful to our Minister, Professor Blade Nzimande, for inviting you to the CSIR. In fact, we've been looking forward to this day for a very, very long time, and are very pleased that this day has indeed finally come. I think, as my colleague Dr. Malinga mentioned earlier, what we hope to achieve in this visit is to demonstrate to you, Mr. President, the significant role that this organization plays to drive industrial development and to contribute towards the creation of a capable state, which are the two priorities of government, amongst many others. And that the CSIR is a very critical component for the development of our country. In fact, we believe that we can even play a bigger role with regards to our contribution to the development of our country if we are given more opportunities to apply our capabilities for the betterment of South Africa. I have a very unenviable task of trying to summarize in 30 minutes 8 years of touching lives through innovation in a very complex and very diverse business, and I'll try to do my best. I'm going to speak to these points, which I will not enumerate, but I want to start off by reflecting on the mandate of the CSIR. Now, the CSIR was established in 1945, in fact, just after the war. In fact, this is something that was happening in other parts of the world, where science councils like ours were being created primarily to drive industrialization and to drive recovery of those economies from the devastation of the war. Now, in the CSIR Act, Section 3 of the Act speaks about the object of the CSIR. And that is captured in this slide. So our mandate is very broad in the sense that it doesn't specify which sectors of the economy we ought to play and the type of work that we need to do. But there are very key statements in the mandate which gives a sense of the character of the organization that we are. One is that we are expected to undertake directed research and technological innovation. And we highlight the word directed, because that's what differentiates the CSIR, for instance, from an academic institution, that our work ought to be directed towards creating impact. We will not undertake research for the sake of undertaking research. We always have to ask ourselves the question, what is the impact that we intend to create with the work that we do? And that the research and technological innovations that we undertake as a CSIR ought to foster scientific and industrial development. In fact, over the past 5 years, as it will become evident during the rest of the presentation, we've put a lot of emphasis to ensure that as a CSIR, we make a direct and meaningful contribution to industrial development within South Africa. In fact, we interpret this statement of scientific and industrial development as saying to us that our scientific efforts ought to contribute to industrial development, They ought to contribute towards the creation of a capable state as well as societal development. Of course, the mandate goes on to say that we need to do this in partnership. And later on, we'll reflect on our values, and one of them is the value of collaboration. And I'll speak a bit about that. But that ultimately, everything that we do as a CSIR ought to contribute towards improving the quality of lives of the people of South Africa. And that really is the litmus test in terms of our contribution and our ability to respond to the mandate that we have been given. Now, we've taken this mandate and we've interpreted it in terms of a vision and a mission statement, which starts to speak perhaps in a much more practical way to the things that we need to do to ensure that we live up to this mandate. Our vision is that we see ourselves as accelerators of socio-economic prosperity in South Africa through leading innovation. And how we achieve this is contained in our mission. We achieve this by collaboratively innovating and localizing technologies whilst providing knowledge solutions for the inclusive and sustainable advancement of industry and society. Very carefully chosen words also in terms of how we live up to our mandate as an organization. Firstly, we realize that our contribution is not only through innovation, that if there are technologies in other parts of the world that have already been proven, we must bring them to South Africa and localize them and adapt them for the specific needs that we have as a country. We also realize that our contribution is not only through technology, but also through knowledge that we provide to the private sector, to government, to inform decisions, to inform policy, to make government and industry informed users and buyers of technology. Of course, issues of inclusivity in terms of transformation of the economy are very important to us, as well as issues of sustainability. And I think as we go through the presentation, Mr. President, we may be able to show examples of how, as an organization, we live up to this mission. We are guided by a set of values, and these values spell out the word epic. We strive for excellence in everything that we do, not perfection, but excellence. And we drive ourselves towards this goal. We are a people-centered organization. We respect diversity and conduct ourselves in a manner that upholds the dignity of each and every person that we engage with. Our own colleagues here within the CSR, but also the partners that we work with in society. We act with integrity. And we conduct ourselves in a manner that ensures that everything that we do is underpinned by this value of integrity as an organization. And we're very proud, Mr. President, we'll show this later, our track record in terms of our governance practices within this organization. And then lastly, we strongly believe in collaboration, primarily because everything that we do as a CSIR is not for ourselves. It's to serve industry, it's to serve government, and to serve society. So collaboration is really at the heart of what we do as a CSIR. Our strategy that we are implementing, which we developed in 2019-2020, with a strong focus on a CSIR that plays a meaningful role in terms of industrial development and the creation of a capable state, tries to achieve these four objectives. One is that we want to make a meaningful and direct contribution towards the inclusive growth of the South African economy, but also at the same time, we want to grow the CSR business. Secondly, we want to contribute towards the sustainability and competitiveness of South African enterprises through the innovations and the technologies that we transfer to industry to enable them to meet their business objectives. We want to create impact through the commercialization of the IP that we generate, leading to the creation of startup companies, but also through the transfer of knowledge and technology that enables the creation of a capable state. And then lastly, we want to demonstrate the relevance of innovation as a key enabler for industrial development, something that we feel very strongly about, that perhaps we don't talk enough about how innovation can unlock opportunities for us to see growth and industrial development in our country, as well as, of course, the creation of a capable state. Our strategy rests on these 4 pillars. We need to ensure that we have the right people to do the work that we need to do as a CSIR. We need to invest in skills. We need to have state-of-the-art infrastructure. And here is an issue that we talk about a lot, that the CSIR, at the age that we are at now, we are 8 years old. Some of our infrastructure is aging, and we need to continuously invest in the rejuvenation of the infrastructure that we have to ensure that we can continue to perform cutting-edge research and development. The third pillar is that we need to also continuously invest in the development of new future-facing capabilities. Otherwise, we become stagnant, we become stale. The world is changing very rapidly in the era of technology, and we need to ensure that as a CSIR, we remain up to date and we remain relevant in terms of the technological developments that are taking place in the world. And we'll share some of the examples in terms of what we're doing in this regard. And of course, we need to have an enabling support environment which is agile, cost-effective, efficient, and fit for purpose. And this is underpinned by an operating model that we'll share a bit later of divisions, clusters, and portfolios which act as a home to the strategic capabilities that we develop within the organization. At a glance, Mr. President, in terms of some statistics, the CSIR has a footprint in different parts of our country. Our main campus is here in Pretoria. We've got a facility in Johannesburg where we do our mining research. We have a facility in Durban which does most of our environmental related research, as well as some of the work that we do in biorefinery technologies, where we take biomass, for instance sugar cane, which has now come under a lot of pressure because of the social change that we see around the use of sugar, to convert it into high-value products, or even waste products coming out of the pulp and paper industry that we can utilize to produce very high-value products. We've got facilities in Gqeberha at the SEZ there, which is looking at fibers and composites. We have a facility in Cape Town, in Stellenbosch, which focuses on environmental sciences, as well as some of our work in defense, as well as a facility in Cape Town, which houses our Center for High Performance Computing. In terms of numbers, the CSIR has a staff complement of just under 2,300 people. 79% of our staff are Black South Africans, and 46% are females. We've worked very hard over the past years to ensure that we transform our organization, Mr. President. If we look at what we call the set base, those are the scientists, the engineers, and technologies which undertake the work that gets done here at the CSIR in terms of research, development, and innovation. They make up 70% of our total staff complement. And 73% of the set base is made up of Black South Africans, and 40% female. The national figure in terms of the transformation of the science system in terms of the gender profile is that 28% of the science system is female. So way above the national figure in terms of our own transformation. Again, we've made very deliberate efforts in this regard to bring about transformation in our organization. 2.7% of our employees have disabilities of one form or another, 30% with master's degrees, and 19% with PhDs. Maybe just also very briefly in terms of some of the outputs and outcomes that we have produced as an organization over the past 5 years. We've produced just over 2,500 publications in the past 5 years. This is very important for us. We don't produce publications for the sake of producing publications, but this is an indication of the quality of the work that we do, because these are peer-reviewed publications that we are talking about, and books and book chapters. We have filed over 35 priority patent applications. We had over 116 patents granted to the CSIR over the past 5 years. We've developed just under 340 new technology demonstrators. Now, these are technologies that we've developed to what we refer to as technology readiness level 6, which means they have been tested in the environment where they will be applied. So they are very close to being commercially exploited. Of course, it speaks also to the issue of relevance. We have signed 55 license agreements with industry partners. Of course, we would like to see more and more of our technology demonstrators moving into the area of licensing. Of course, that requires significant investments for us to be able to do that, which is one of the bottlenecks that we have to deal with. We have localized over 100 technologies. So these are technologies and products that in the past we were bringing from other parts of the world that we are now able to produce locally here in South Africa. We've signed over 200 joint technology development agreements with industry. Again, as I said earlier, we've placed a lot of emphasis on us working closely with industry as part of our new strategy. We've supported over 770 small and medium enterprises. We've contributed towards 127 national policies, 92 national standards, and we've executed over 730 projects in support of the development of a capable state. In terms of governance, Mr. President, we're very proud that over the past 15 years, and one can even go longer than that, we have had a clean audit outcome from the Auditor General. Our BBBEE is now level 1. In 2019, we're sitting at BBBEE level 4. We've also been very deliberate to drive this performance. And of course, we also live up to a number of standards on quality, environmental, and many others. If you look at the demographic profile of the SMMEs that we support, 69% of the SMMEs supported by the CSIR are owned at least by 50+% blacks. 20% are owned by 50+% youth. 30%, 50% plus owned by females, and 1.8% are 50% plus owned by differently abled individuals. In terms of the license agreements, 61.5% of the licenses we've signed are owned by are with black companies, and 15.4% are with 100% women-owned enterprises. Very briefly, if we look at the progress we've made from 2019 to date in terms of the implementation of our new strategy with a focus on industrial development, despite the fact that there's been a decline in our parliamentary grant, in our patents granted and policies, there are many things that we can celebrate in terms of the progress that we have achieved over this period. Our publications, for instance, have grown by 13%. Our priority patent applications have grown by 50%. So even though the patents granted have reduced, the pipeline of priority patent applications which will translate to new patents looks very, very healthy. The number of technology demonstrators has grown by 62%. The number of license agreements signed has grown by over 140%. Now, these are signed with companies that are already operating in South Africa. We've localized technologies, and this has grown by 233%. Joint technology development agreements with industry have grown by 117%, and the list goes on. Our contribution in terms of the work we are doing to support a capable state, this has grown by over 200%. Our total income has grown by 27% over the past 6 years. But what is interesting is that the public sector income has grown by 46%. Our private sector income has grown by 40% over that period. And our international income has grown by over 170% over the past 6 years. So our view, Mr. President, is that we are making significant strides to deliver on our mandate, and we're making significant strides to contribute towards the creation of a capable state and to contribute towards industrialization in South Africa. Now, in terms of the work that we do, our work is focused on 9 areas, and it covers over 11 sectors of the South African economy. And we've organized this into what we refer to as clusters or strategic business units. You can use that word also. And these clusters sit within what we call divisions. So there are 3 divisions within the CSIR. The first division is called Advanced Chemistry and Life Sciences, with a focus on advanced agriculture in food, chemicals, as well as next generation health. The second division is called Advanced Production and Security, focusing on manufacturing, mining, as well as defense and security. we've chosen these focus areas to speak specifically to the sectors of the economy where we intend to make a meaningful difference and to create impact. The last division houses capabilities that are cross-cutting. It's called Smart Society. It has a focus on what we refer to as smart places, which encompasses the area of the built environment, the natural environment, issues of water and energy sit within smart places. We have smart mobility, which focuses on the logistics sector, the technologies and infrastructure that goes to supporting the logistics sector within South Africa. Then lastly, we have what we refer to as next generation enterprises and institutions, which is focusing on the digital transformation of business and government using information and communication technologies, as well as the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. So this is the heart of what we do within the CSIR and the areas where we create impact. I want to move then very quickly and reflect ever so briefly on some of the significant achievements that we have had as a CSIR in the past 8 years of our existence. I think when one goes through this, it's very clear to see that indeed the CSIR has lived up to its mandate of contributing towards improving the quality of lives of the people of South Africa. I think as early as 1946, our telecommunications research laboratory, which was established here at the CSIR, served as a key enabler of the electronics industry within South Africa. One of the areas of focus within this laboratory was around radar technology to support our National Defence Force at the time. Interesting enough, that capability still exists even today, and we've actually strengthened that capability. We will share some of the examples of the work that we are doing now to use the radar capability that was built in 1946 within the CSIR. In the 60s, we developed an accelerated pavement testing technology. The issue here, Mr. President, is that if you build a road, you need for the road to last at least between 20 and 40 years. And if you introduce a new material, the question then becomes, how do you then test to ensure that this material will last for the lifetime of the road? So we developed this capability which allows one to be able to get data that represents 40 years of the life of a road in a 3-month period. This technology has now been licensed to an American company called Dynatest, and it's being sold all over the world. In fact, one of their biggest clients is the Department of Defense in the US, using South African homegrown technology. The CSIR was also very instrumental in the creation of a missile industry within South Africa, and this was enabled by the fact that we have wind tunnel capabilities within the CSIR, which will demonstrate later on to the President. In the 70s, we spun out a company from the CSIR called Kentron, which has now become Denel Dynamics, which manufactures missiles that we export to various parts of the world. We were also at some point in time leaders in the development of materials that are used for the lithium-ion battery. In fact, I think we made a mistake because in the 80s we abandoned this work within the CSIR, not realizing the significance of this capability in the future. I think if we had continued with this research, I'm sure that we'll be amongst the world leaders in terms of lithium-ion batteries. But the chemistry that is currently being used in most lithium-ion batteries came out of the CSIR. We also support the mining sector through what's called self-contained, self-rescue devices. These are devices that miners take with them underground to use in the case that there's an emergency, for them to move from the point of an emergency to an area where they can be safe. This device allows them to have clean air to breathe for at least 30 minutes. We have been mandated by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy to do testing and evaluation of these devices for the whole mining sector within South Africa. In the 2000s, when our country was faced with a significant problem of cash in transit heists, the CSIR developed this vehicle that you see in this image, Mr. President, which is now becoming standard in terms of the vehicles that are used for the transportation of cash within South Africa. We worked with all the industry partners that were involved in terms of the development of this vehicle, which of course has much better performance in terms of stability, the center of mass, compared to the previous vehicles. But in addition to that, we developed a technology which was based on polymer chemistry, where we can deploy this within the vault of this vehicle, that in the event that there is a heist, the chemicals will react and it will create a block that secures the cash that is contained within the vault, making it possible for the robbers to have access to the cash within this. And we've rolled out all of these technologies to our partners in this sector. Another example of work we did in the 2000s is around the development of a camera that is now sold from South Africa by a South African company, licensing the IP from the CSIR to over 40 countries all over the world. This company now has 50% market share in terms of this very specialized camera. What the camera does is that for high voltage power transmission lines, we have got an insulation which is applied. When that insulation degrades, there is an image that gets created around this transmission line, which we can only see with this very specialized camera. And therefore it enables our utilities to then intervene before you can have failure of the transmission line. It's called a corocam. It uses UV and infrared light to detect this image from the corona, which is what gets created as a result of the degradation of the insulation from the power transmission. And so we are contributing to ensure that Eskom, of course, keeps the lights on for South Africa. Mr. President, when in 2013 the Department of Home Affairs embarked on the transition from the green ID book to a smart card, they approached the CSIR to do the design of the smart card and the safety features that must be built into the smart card. In fact, this is a very good example of how we can work with different government departments. So before they go to procure, they went to procure the new smart card for South Africa. They came to the CSIR. We then designed the smart card for South Africa. And on the basis of that, the department was then able to go to the market with a smart card that is designed for our own specific needs, with the safety features that speak to what we wanted to achieve as a country with the smart card. If that had not been done, if you go to the market, you will get whatever the market is willing to offer you, which might not be necessarily what you are looking for. So we're very much involved in terms of the design of the smart card and the security features that are built into the smart card with the Department of Home Affairs. We're faced with a problem in the 2010s of rhino poaching, as you would know, Mr. President. Working with SANParks, we developed a system which is made up of an optical camera, a laser, and a radar. The radar I spoke about earlier on. So it integrates 3 different types of technologies that were initially developed, in fact, for defense applications. We integrated these technologies to develop a system that has been deployed at the Kruger National Park to monitor poachers and to allow rangers to then intervene. As a result of deployment of this system at the Kruger National Park, we saw a significant reduction in terms of the incidence of rhino poaching. In fact, the reports we received from the rangers was that they went from a situation where poaching was a daily occurrence to the situation that we have today, where it happens at least once a year. Of course, the opportunity then exists for us to roll out more of these systems in our other national parks. In fact, what we saw at the time was that because of the deployment of this system at the Kruger National Park, there was an increase in rhino poaching in Ezemvelo in KwaZulu-Natal because they did not have a system of this particular nature. And there are many examples. During COVID, we worked with a startup company in South Africa where we licensed some of our technology for the manufacture of enzymes that are based on indigenous biodiversity. And these enzymes can be integrated into a testing kit for COVID, and this company is able to do that. In terms of our work on climate change, which is a major issue for town planners in most of our cities. We've developed what is called a Green Book Metro View, which we have rolled out in the cities of eThekwini and eTshwane to support local government in terms of what needs to be done to adapt to climate change and to provide evidence around climate change, population risk, population growth, as well as risk and vulnerability of the communities where the new settlements are being planned. During COVID itself, working with our partners, we produced over 18,000 ventilators that were distributed to public but also private hospitals and saved many of the lives of our citizens. The electronic vaccine certificates that we all use to travel were also developed here at the CSIR. My colleagues will speak a little bit about that later on. Mr. President, as you know, that digital currencies, cryptocurrencies are growing significantly all over the world. And as a country also, we need to ensure that we are prepared for this, that we are able to deal with the positive but also the downside of these types of technologies. As a CSIR, we've developed a software platform called ExoChain, which will enable regulators. We're working with SABRIC, we're working with the South African Reserve Bank in terms of them using this platform to monitor the cryptocurrency industry as well as compliance for the different platforms that are trading in this type of currency. The Department of Defense is a key strategic partner of the CSIR. In fact, we do a lot of work with the DoD. I'll give an example here of the work we are doing to support the development of the new uniform for the Department of Defense. The uniform that we are developing now is gender specific. The previous uniform was only designed for males, not for females in the Army. And we've been able to work with the Department of Defense to develop a gendered uniform, which is lightweight, strong, but also which has an improved camouflage for the deployments that the South African National Defence Force is planning. There are 2,000 sets of these garments, which are currently undergoing trials by the SANDF. If I move on then and reflect ever so briefly, perhaps, on some of the recent work we've done to support the private sector. Here we give an example of work that we are doing with a German company to use our radar capability to develop a product that will go into the Navy. This company is already involved in terms of the supply of radar technologies for the Navy. They are looking for the next generation radar capability. It's a German company which has operations here in South Africa, and we work with them now to develop a new type of radar. They've already secured contracts with the UK Navy to supply these systems into the UK. Of course, for every radar system that they sell, the CSIR will get a royalty payment from that. The total investment between ourselves and this company is in excess of 450 million rands just for the commercialization of this technology. We put in over 100 million rands of our own resources in the commercialization of this technology. Again, it's an indication of the strength of the capabilities that we've built in the CSIR around this particular area. Because I'm sure they had opportunities to go to any other partner in the world to work with them on this. And they chose the CSIR because of the capabilities that we have. Another one is a laser sorting system that we've developed for De Beers. They had major problems with commercially available laser sorting systems that they've brought from Europe and other parts of the world. And they approached the CSIR to develop a system that is reliable, that is stable, to provide this capability to their mining operations. And we've developed the system based on our laser capabilities. We've transferred it to De Beers. They've been using this now since 2022 in their Botswana operations. And as a result of the excellent performance they've seen from this laser sorting system, more systems for them. Of course, this opens up new opportunities for us to supply this solution to other parts of the world. Another example here, Mr. President, is the work that we are doing to support broadband access, particularly to underserved communities. I think with the with the transition of our television from analog to digital, we identified that there's an opportunity in terms of spectrum that has now become available that can be utilized for broadband communication. We've developed a system called a geolocation spectrum database system, which allows one to identify this band of the TV spectrum for use in broadband communication. We've licensed this now to SMMEs, and they are rolling this out in various communities. Just at a high level, over 2,600 households have now been connected to broadband. 200 public facilities, 270 small businesses now have access to broadband, and 180 Wi-Fi spots have been created as a result of the rollout of this technology. And over 110 jobs have also been created. If I move on, in terms of our work to support development of a capable state, as I mentioned earlier, the Department of Defense and the South African National Defense Force is a key strategic partner of the CSIR. In fact, we do a lot of work with the DOD and the SNDF. In fact, amongst all the government departments, that's the one department that utilizes the CSIR as a strategic partner in terms of addressing opportunities and developing solutions to support the various missions that they undertake. Here we've developed what is called a gunner protection device for personal carriers. It is a significant improvement to currently existing systems. We've already licensed this to a company that will be manufacturing these devices and retrofitting them to existing vehicles of the SANDF. We support our National Ports Authority with various capabilities, particularly around decision support. In fact, we are the only partner that supports port operators in terms of providing them with information on wave, wind, and current, which enables them to make decisions around the entry or exit of ships into all our ports within South Africa. We've got buoys that we've deployed along the coastline, and in real time, we are continuously feeding this information to our port operators. We work with Eskom on various initiatives. Here we reflect on the work we are doing to support Eskom in terms of the refurbishment of steam turbines. We've come up with a technology that allows us, instead of replacing components of steam turbines that have failed, to refurbish them. Of course, this means there are significant reductions in cost, but also in terms of downtime. We are able to do this in situ. Turbine is taken out of commission, we repair it, and is then put back into service as a result of our interventions. We are also involved in a number of initiatives to support the circular economy, and we list some of them here. In terms of ensuring that there is natural resource security and that there is sustainable reuse of our natural resources. Then lastly, we are also very active in terms of supporting the creation of a local pharmaceutical industry, particularly focusing on the manufacture of own vaccines and pharmaceuticals, which is an area, of course, as you know, Mr. President, that is perhaps a weakness in terms of our own system, that we are not able to manufacture our own vaccines and to manufacture our own pharmaceuticals. We are setting up here within the CSIR, with support from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation and National Treasury, a world-class strategic capability which will enable us to produce vaccines, pharmaceuticals, as well as biological measures, and create that value chain that will give us that level of strategic independence as a country. In terms of financial sustainability, I can very quickly reflect here that our income comes mainly from two income sources. We receive a grant from the state, which makes up 19% of our total revenue. The rest of our income, 81%, we generate through contract research and development that we undertake for the public sector, for the international sector, as well as for the private sector. So if you look at that contract R&D income portion of the CSIR, 20.5% comes from international contracts, as well as 8.7% from the private sector. And the remainder comes from government, state-owned entities, as well as provincial governments, of course. Over the past 6 years, we've grown our income by 27%. In fact, in the year that has ended just now, our total turnover was 3.604 billion rands. As I mentioned earlier, collaboration and partnerships are really at the heart of what we do as an organization. We cannot do the work that we do and create the impact that we are able to create without partnerships. Now, the CSIR is very unique in the family of science councils in South Africa, in the sense that if you look at most science councils, MinTech, for instance, has a very specific sectorial focus, focusing on mining, or ARC focusing on agriculture. The CSIR is a multi-sectorial organization. It then, of course, gives us an opportunity to partner and to collaborate with the other science councils within the National System of Innovation. But also we work very closely with state-owned enterprises, we work with skills development agencies, higher education institutions, government, as well as industry, both locally as well as internationally. We've got a very extensive footprint in terms of the work that we do. We have a number of partnerships in the continent, in Europe, in North America, in South America, as well as in the Middle East and Asia, which I will not enumerate in this slide, but they are all indicated in this presentation. And then lastly, Mr. President, I want to just very quickly reflect on an initiative that we started in 2023, where we created a CSIR wholly owned company with an express intention of focusing on the commercialization of the intellectual property coming out of the CSIR. I spoke earlier about the need to ensure that there's more translation of the technology demonstrators coming out of the CSIR to licenses. So we've created this enterprise and we've ring-fenced it with this very clear objective to increase the pace and scale at which we commercialize IP coming out of the CSIR. I think since its establishment, we now have a portfolio of over 20 investable technologies in health, in the green economy, in mining, in defense and security, as well as in advanced manufacturing. We've secured investment from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, as well as private investors, and our own resources in the range of about 200 million rands. This is direct investments or commitments that we already have to support the commercialization of the portfolio of technologies that we have identified. We've established partnerships with the likes of the IDC, TIA, DTIC, and other private sector venture capital firms. We've also built an ecosystem of business partners that are either evaluating or exploring opportunities to license technologies coming out of the CSIR, as well as raising capital working with us. In conclusion, I hope that in this presentation, which I accept was very rushed, given the size and the scope and the breadth of the activities that we undertake within the CSIR, I hope that we've been able to at least indicate that the CSIR is a national asset with world-class capabilities, and that the work that we do contributes towards delivering on national priorities through the partnerships that we have with government and with industry. That we are a well-governed organization that is financially stable. I chose the word stable carefully. I didn't want to say financially sustainable. Because, you know, when someone is in hospital, if they are recovering, you say they are stable. But you know that there's still a little bit of risk that remains in terms of the health of the person. So we are also financially stable. Our view, though, is that we can do more as a CSIR, and that we should be mandated to be the technology partner for government and the public sector, because there will be significant benefits to the state if this happens, in terms of, for instance, strengthening the capacity of the state, reducing the risk and reliance on third parties, vendor lock-ins, and many other things I can mention. It also enables us to create strategic independence in key sensitive areas of the state if we tap into the expertise, the capacity, and the capabilities that exist here within the CSIR. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CEO. That in task of summarizing the life of the CSR, 8 years of our existence into a short time, a very, very difficult task to do. We are very, very delighted for the insights that you've shared. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we are going to allow the President to move around and see some of the exhibits around this hall. So I'm going to ask everyone else to remain seated, and the President, the ministers, our minister, deputy ministers, as well as the DGs who are present here, to walk around with the President to the exhibits around. But before that happens, after the walkabout around the exhibits, then there is going to be a photo opportunity at the entrance with the President, together with the dignitaries who are gathered here. And then we'll then proceed to the facility tours, the different areas that we'll be visiting with those that have been identified, the VVIPs who are here, who will go and join us for that. May I request one of our facilities, the wind tunnels, that's our key, national key point area, and we are not allowed to get into that building with mobile phones, and so those that will be going to that area, we request that you leave your phone in your car if possible, and if you cannot do that, then your cell phone will have to be put in an envelope when we get to the other side and be secured until you leave that facility. Again, so we'll request that you assist us with that. So I will now invite the President, our CEO, the ministers, the DGs to walk around and see some of the work that we are doing. Thank you. And then for the facility visits, we'll be streaming what is happening there to this site, for those who will be remaining this site. Thank you.
Yes, you must feel so. You must feel so.
I introduce you to my colleagues. This is Mr. Middleton. Talk about the work that you are doing to support digital health.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I can see you looking very intently. It's hard to believe that it's actually been 5 years. Let's go back to the picture. Yes, it's been 5 years since your visit to the Department of Health's COVID-19 Information Center. And during that visit, you'll recall that you saw firsthand the role that the CSIR played in terms of helping the department and the country get ahead of the pandemic. A few months thereafter, Mr. President, the country initiated the COVID-19 vaccination program. And again, we needed an information system there to be able to effectively administer the program. And as the CEO mentioned earlier, the system that was used, which is called the Electronic Vaccine Data System, was actually developed by the CSIR. If you look at this screen, Mr. President, you'll see that at its peak, the EVDS system was actually used in over 4,000 vaccination sites in the country. And what is interesting is that actually for the first time in our country, both the public sector and private sector facilities used the same system. So irrespective of whether you had your vaccination at a public clinic, hospital, or a CLICS or a DISCEM, they used the same EVDS system. And in total, the system recorded more than 39 million vaccination events, and also the vaccination certificate that people needed for travel purposes was generated by the system, a total of over 9.5 million vaccination certificates that were downloaded. In fact, when people were really excited or worried we had more than 1 million certificates to download in a single day.
Wow.
Yeah. But, Mr. President, unfortunately, this one's okay now. The journey of the CSIR in the digital health space didn't start in 2021 with the electronic vaccination data system. It actually started in 2012 after the NHI Green Paper was first published. And the first system that we built for the country is called the Health Patient Registration System. Mm-hmm. And the Health Patient Registration System serves as the authoritative source of patient demographic data in the country. It also produces the unique patient identifier that is used across all different health systems, thereby enabling interoperability between health information systems. If you look here on that map, to date, more than 3,200 facilities are implemented with the HPRS, and we've also recorded in excess of 37 million patient registrations that are verified against the Home Affairs systems as well.
Mine too?
Including yours. Mr. President, you see the journey here actually has had quite a number of important innovations and milestones over the decade that we've been involved in the space with the Department of Health. I can't go into all of them because we just don't have the time, but it's important to mention, and we are very pleased to mention, that if you look at the Presidential Health Compact, all of these initiatives are mentioned as notable achievements. And moving forward in the second iteration of the Presidential Health Compact, the most important priority is probably the electronic medical record. And the electronic medical record is important because without it, you cannot have continuity of patient care. Yes. You can't be carrying a paper-based file from facility to facility, to put it simply. So we are very pleased and excited actually to introduce the National Electronic Medical Record System that we're working with the Department of Health on. It's called eImpilo, and currently, and currently it is actually being implemented in beta testing across 42 clinics in the country, across 5 provinces. And here you can see the system in action. So here's a patient, Jane Smith, Mandisa Smith, who is attending this clinic, Nomimi Clinic in the Northern Cape. And she's come to encounter the nurse here by the name of Cyril Ramaphosa.
So she's pregnant?
Yes.
She's got asthma, hypertension, allergies, pregnant state, automatic nervous system disorder. Yeah, I know all that, so I'm
that's why we made you the nurse. And yes. And so you've actually done a lot of my job. So in the system, the attending physician is easily able to see the chronic conditions and the adverse conditions of
wherever
the patient.
she may go.
Wherever she may go.
So if she ends up in Cape Town, they will have access to this.
Yeah. In fact, this patient, if you look at the history, is in fact from Umtata.
Yes.
So you can see here the previous visits that she had, the previous facilities that she's visited, and the clinicians.
His clinic?
Yes.
Roy is crown. Wow.
You can see these are carefully selected facilities. And I think also, we're running out of time, but also very importantly, you can see the previous lab results.
Liver function and all that and so on. Wow.
This is a bit meaningless to me, but you as the nurse, I know you know exactly.
I know all of that.
But this is important,
so
Mr.
Also know her allergies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It is all in the system.
All in the system. Amazing.
So in this case, why this is important is that having access to the previous lab results means you don't have to do unnecessary duplicate testing, which is, of course, expensive, but it also can be dangerous for the patient. Okay. So I think that's all we have time to show you today. Just to make one concluding remark, to say that all of the systems that you saw today are, of course, critical building blocks towards implementation of the NHI, and all of these systems are owned by It's operated by the state, so there's no licensing costs, and we also don't have any exposure in terms of global geopolitics and what that means for this country, which we're seeing at the moment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Now, how big, how broad has this system been implemented? I know about it, but what is the penetration?
Are you speaking about EMPLO, the EMR system?
That's right, yeah. What is the penetration?
Currently, we are in, here's the map here.
Yeah.
It's in beta testing, so it's 42 facilities.
It's been in testing for a few years, 3-4 years now?
No, since this one, since last year, since the last part of last year.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe this is the one that the lady spoke to me about.
The HPRS, yeah. Yes. That one has been since 2018, in fact.
So this is now the advanced one.
They will all work together, Mr. President. So HPRS will produce the patient demographic information,
yes,
as well as the master patient index.
Yes.
And EMPLO will actually produce then the clinical information of the patient using the same master patient index.
Okay.
And there will be other systems that also form
so
together.
Only
the
myself
pieces.
as the nurse and the doctor will have access to this?
Absolutely.
Okay. Not anyone?
No.
How do we make sure that not everyone has access?
So behind all of these systems is quite a sophisticated access management system.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's okay.
And you're also doing work on cybersecurity.
Yes, we will visit the
which we are
cybersecurity.
going to go to President. It's a critical partner to the petition. The question you're asking.
Very impressive, I must say. What is your skill and your craft?
So I am an engineer, but I've been working in
What type of engineer? Because I'm also an engineer.
electronic engineer. Working with information systems.
So you can basically, I mean, in IT, what did you do? You are
business.
so you can basically do anything.
I am
If I
an
give you a
interpreter
problem,
and we solve problems. That's what I do.
you solve problems.
Yes.
Okay. So if I say convert it, you do
Within reason.
within reason. It's dangerous. Very good.
Mr. President, can I introduce you to Dr. Sibula?
Good afternoon.
Talk about the work we're doing to support the oceans economy within South
Nice to
Africa.
meet you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the South African National Oceans Project, which is the National Oceans and Coast Information Management System. Before we start, I will start with this screen to introduce you to some facts about the ocean and how it contributes to the economy. Then we'll move over to the other screen to talk about, to show you the live demonstration of the system and what's happening in the ocean right now. As we can see, we're in Pretoria, but we're observing what is happening in Cape Town, Durban, and everywhere. So to start off, Mr. President, it is a very little known fact that South Africa has a very large ocean territory, as you can see in the green area over there, and it is 1.5 million kilometers squared. And we have a very long, yes, it's area.
But, the area.
The area. Then we have the coastline also, which is 3,200 kilometers,
Yes.
which is the length of the coast, as you can see, all the way from Port North all around to Durban and beyond. And this area has a lot of coastal resources that contribute to the country's GDP. We also have a lot of communities that live off this ocean on a daily basis, whether it's for fishing purposes or they go to feed themselves in the ocean. So moving on from this fact, Mr. President, As you know, as a result of the ocean being so vast, Operation Phakisa was initiated in 2014 in order to monitor the ocean and to see how the government and the country can benefit from this region. So shortly after Operation Phakisa, the National Oceans and Coast Information Management System was initiated, and it was managed by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. Back then, it was called the Department of Environmental Affairs. So right now, it is managed by DSTI, Science and Technology, along with DFFE. So the CSIR is the main implementation partner of this project, and we are the main leading developers of the system. It is developed by South Africans, for South Africans, with our national stakeholders in mind. So they tell us exactly what they need out of the system, and we create the applications and provide them with the information. The main areas that we work with, there's 8 different areas that we manage with OSIMs. But in the interest of time, we will talk only about 2 of those today, and we will show you live on the other screen over there. But in passing, this is just to monitor coastal flood hazards. We know we live over along the coast, and the water rushes up and damages the infrastructure over there. We have the ports that are very important to us, and there's critical infrastructure that can get damaged there. We also have the wide marine domain awareness, where we know there's criminal activities that happen in the oceans, and there's also exploitation of our resources, and therefore we also observe this. Then we also have water quality and fisheries. As we said, the department and the people that live on this area need to know that the water quality is good enough for them to live off this region. So that is OSIMs in a nutshell, Mr. President. But in the interest of time, I will show you just a screenshot here to show you what the system looks like. Here we're monitoring the sea state in a wide area. Then we will move over there to show you more interactively what we do with the vessels in the ocean.
So, on this one, why is that one blue and deep blue and the others are greener and light green?
Yes, so at the moment here, we're monitoring the sea surface temperature.
Okay.
So in blue, you will see the water
So that is
cold.
Contemporaneous?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all right.
That's correct. So this is what happens with the sea surface temperature, and therefore it affects the fishing and other activities. Then over there,
So it's not permanently like that?
It's not permanently like that, but for now we'll just show it like
Yeah,
that
sure.
in passing. So over here, what we're looking at is the integrated vessel tracking tool. All the vessels that you see here are live at this point in time.
Live?
Yes, they're moving in our ocean.
So the green things that are pointed forward, they are vessels?
Yes, so they're pointing in different directions, as you can see, depending on where they're going. There's a lot of them. And as we say, there's a lot that happens in the oceans. Although it looks very calm when you look at it, but there's a lot that's happening over there. So, of the vessels. Yes. It tells you the different types of the vessels over here. So as you can see, we have cargo vessels, we have tankers, we have passenger vessels, we even have speedboats in there. But at the point in time, we're tracking one vessel in particular that came in yesterday. If you see the yellow line that's going down, and then now it's going out of South Africa. It went into the port of Durban. Obviously, there was some cargo activity there, so they were offloading the cargo, and now they're on the way out of the country. And that's necessarily what...
So is that a high-speed one, or is it just a passenger one?
This one is just a tanker vessel. As you can see, if I can move away for a little bit. Here, we tell you what type of vessel it is, and then we provide you with more information about the vessel here. We can even tell you what country it's coming from.
Marshall Islands.
Yes. And therefore, it's in the right place, Mr. President. Sorry. As you can see, because it's going back through the Mozambican channel back home. So that is usually what we would like to see with our vessels. So in the sake of time...
who monitors this? The Defense Force that monitors this continuously, or yourselves here, or who else?
So we monitor it continuously, and then the Defense Force, if we can move over to this screen over here. Then when there's incidents that are happening and they're not sure about the activities that the vessels have been doing, they ask us to track the vessels for them, see where they have been, and then we provide them with the information. So if there's a criminal case and there's a vessel that has been behaving in a way that it shouldn't be, then we can provide them with evidence and they can prosecute the vessels.
So if a vessel switches off its transponder, how do you know?
So we have this little thing over here, which we call synthetic aperture radar detections. So if they switch it off, then obviously it will go off on the screen, but then we switch on the radar satellite and then we do the analysis to pick up the vessels in their natural form in the ocean. So we're not getting the signal from them, but we can look down on them and track them also.
Do you have many such?
Yes, we have a lot of them.
So they come into our water, switch off.
Yes, and then we provide the information to the South African Maritime Safety Association and Defense Intelligence, and they take it from there. Yes. In
Do you
conclusion,
work with SANSA as a matter of interest?
yes, we do. SANSA provides us with some of the synthetic aperture radar data. So that's where we can now do the dark target detection with the radar imagery that they provide to us.
From their satellites?
From the satellites that they procure for us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're a very big collaborator with us.
So when did this happen? 6 Chinese trawlers and rogue fishing. When was that?
This one, as we can see, was in 2020. So that's when it was reported. This were captured around the same time. As you can see, this one was 2019.
Cocaine, yes.
Those were probably in 2020 together. Yes.
Okay.
So in conclusion, yes, and also we work with Border Management Authority to then monitor the ports and everyone has the correct papers to come into the ports and also to leave the country. But in conclusion, Mr. President, I want to highlight also that with the success we've had with the OSIMS project, we've extended regionally, as you can see, to help our neighboring states, because whatever happens in their waters will eventually affect us as well. So with the help of the African Union, we're extending the project so that we can monitor all of Southern Africa.
It's impressive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now with the microphone off, I want to ask you another question. Did you also deal with radio?
Thanks, Mr. President.
Go ahead, please.
Thanks, you welcome, Mr. President. I'm Professor Moses Cho, a chief researcher in the Advanced Agriculture and Food Cluster, where we are harnessing transformative technology in digital agriculture, agro-food processing, food safety, and animal health to sustain and grow South Africa's agricultural economy for inclusive growth and to support rural development. And you're welcome to one of our RDI outputs, the Precision Agriculture Information System. It's thanks to the financial support and strategic direction from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation and the CSIR that we embarked on this program to support government's decadal plan for modernization of agriculture through digital transformation. And our system uses satellite data to provide weekly information on the soil condition of every parcel of farm that is loaded onto the system. As you can see from that map there, that is the soil pH at the time this farm was prepared. And you will see the value of every pixel on that farm, and you will see the average pH value. That information is very important because it enables the farmer to then calculate, for example, the amount of lime needed to balance the pH on that farm to be able to grow maize. And it minimizes the cost of collecting samples from the field, taking them to the laboratory, And that is a lengthy process and a very expensive process. So with a click of the button, the farmer has the pH value and knows exactly what to do. It looks like you've got a question,
Yes,
Mr. President.
I do. So you do it via what? Satellite?
So we have satellite that orbits the Earth or passes over every farm every 5 days. So we get that information and then we apply our algorithms, which I call them South African IP.
So a particular farm has to be logged on. How do you get logged on? I see there you've got Losberg.
Yes, you can basically digitize a farm and you lock it onto the system. And we've made it simple. If you have it on your mobile phone, if you stand in the middle of your farm, the system will pick your exact location and you can then input your farm into the system. So that can even enable every farmer in the country, even using their children with smart systems, to log into the system. And that's all the farmer needs. That's all the user needs. You log onto the system and the system starts generating data for you. And we can monitor the crop on a 5-day basis. And as the crop grows, for example, here, this is the chlorophyll content in your foliage. And you can see in this particular field that the farmer didn't take care of many spots in the field. Maybe they've been affected by pest and disease, and so the farmer needs to take care of that. And we've linked that to Google Map. If you click there with your mobile, it's going to help you to go to exactly that point, and you can then deal with the problem. And we are able to predict the yield, the crop yield for the farm a few months before harvest. Right now, we're predicting maize yield for every farmer who's logged into the system. Harvest is still 1 or 2 months down the line, and it's very, very accurate. And you can even assess the condition of the farm over the years. And this is very important for the extension, agricultural extension services, commodity associations, the banking institutions. It enhances the efficiency of their farmer support system. And we are, across the country, capacitating small-scale farmers who want to transition into commercial agriculture. And already we've been across 7 of the 9 provinces. And the results, the feedback is very, very interesting. And we want to reach every farmer in the country. That is our goal, that every farmer has access to this digital platform. And we hope, with the support of everyone, we can achieve that noble objective. Thanks.
So this seems to be crop-focused. But you also mentioned animals, didn't you? No?
Well, I didn't quite mention animals, but the system can be used to monitor rangelands. We can predict the quality of the rangeland,
yes.
And we have what we call a dynamic carrying capacity model, where you can determine the number of animals that should be present in a particular rangeland or pasture at a particular point in time on a weekly basis. But we know livestock is a cultural thing, and some livestock owners want to hang on to the number of livestock in the field.
Yes.
Thanks.
Very good. Very impressive.
Thanks for telling the president that we fund you so that he knows.
Yes. So that's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And we actually had a touch screen there. You could actually interact with our touch screen. Yeah, you can even click on any button of your choice, and you can actually the system
So how does a farmer access this?
Well, via their mobile phone or via a computer. This one is for exhibition, and you can even select the language and interact with the system. Maybe you can click here, Mr. President.
Oh, I shouldn't be afraid.
No. The language?
Oh, of course. It's gone.
Okay.
No,
So
it's
you click on
taken me to Google.
Okay, you can click on any of the variable, and then you will yeah.
So, yeah. Gee. Wow. That's very good. So I did it in Venda, and okay, it's taken me. So I should come.
Yeah.
This is very impressive. So you can go, how do you
Your farm boundary, you can digitize the farm boundary. That's the digitization tool. You can click your finger there, and you can digitize on another spot. Complete the circle, and then the sheet will appear where you fill in your information.
Wow, this is impressive. It was developed here by you guys.
By us, it is the only system as we speak in the world which will give you the data,
Yes.
exact values on pH, your soil, nitrogen, organic content, and all of that.
Yes. Very good.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Yes. Good afternoon.
I'm Larata Khoa, a researcher in the CSIR Smart Mobility. Welcome to our Transport Safety Lab exhibit. I like to say to people that visit our Drive Lab that we stand at the intersection of technology, behavioral science, and a national agency. As you know, road crashes actually cost South Africa over 200 billion rands per year. And it's easy to be inclined to think that it's probably because of unsafe roads or unsafe vehicles, but our numbers are telling us that over 80%, over 88% actually, of road crashes in our country are caused by human factors. So distractions, drunken driving.
So what are you? Are you an accident expert or what?
No.
What are you? What are you trained in?
I'm a civil engineer, experienced civil engineer by
Civil engineer. Okay.
Yes, and traffic engineering experience. I'm now working in the road safety space.
Okay.
Yes. So this is what we call our Drive Lab. It is a vehicle-based research platform that allows us to study human factors, how drivers behave in natural driving scenarios. And it is established to target that 88% human factor contributory factors to road crashes. Yes. So that is an area that is under-researched in South Africa. Okay. And we are now going to target and focus our research on it so that we can reduce that 88% one day, hopefully, to zero, right? I'm going to take you through the technology. I would like you to please take a seat in the car. Yes. Okay, I need to. So right here on the dashboard, we have what we call smart eye tracking technology. So when you're driving in the vehicle, these laser cameras are going to read your eyes, and they can see where you're focusing, they can see the level of focus, they can see how your pupils are dilating as you drive and interact with other road users. We have another camera over here. This one focuses on capturing activity inside the car that might influence the driver's behavior. So your cell phone, drinking, eating, children in the car, it will capture that. And then we have another one over here. This one specifically looks at capturing the external road environment. Road infrastructure, it will pick up the potholes, road signage, it will pick up whether it's raining or not raining, light or day. So that one primarily collects the external environment data. And then we have this little tool here that is what we use to calibrate the vehicle systems and the driver for a specific drive. So when we do go on a research drive to collect our data and try to analyze, that's what we will use to calibrate for you, Mr. President, your eyes, how it measures your pupils, and all of that. And with that, I would like to quickly move to the back so I can show you how everything comes together and we get meaningful results.
Okay. So I don't have to get into the booth.
No. No, not at all. Here at the back, then we have the equipment and the systems that allows us to overlay all of the data from the main cameras into a single platform so that we can analyze it and draw some meaning out of it, right? And for the first time in South Africa, we are able to then study the driver, the the external environment all at once and in the same place. And Tebogo will just play this video for us. That blue dot is the one that's tracking where the driver is looking, right? So in this project specifically, we were looking at alternative road signage. So that road signage that you're looking over there is not quite visible, but instead of this white, it has what we call a fluorescent yellow color. So it is more reflective than our standard road signs. However, that color is not currently legislated in our road signs manuals and guidelines. And we are pushing to provide evidence or data that supports introducing these new signages.
Is the driver looking at that because
it's more visible?
It's more visible.
Yes. So our results are actually quite promising. It shows that
attracts
yes.
sighting.
Yes, so in low visibility conditions, it will be much more useful for us to be using the alternative signage, and we're trying to push to then get it out onto our public roads because currently it's not legislated.
Okay.
Yes, and yeah, with that, Mr. President, that's our drive lab, and we really believe that human factor is something that can be changed and reshaped. I think very recently you mentioned that if you could, you would like close down our schools for 2 years and retrain our educators and transform our education system. Yes, and that vision is also applicable for road safety.
So you want to stop all cars?
No. We want to partner with you in shutting down the schools and inform the national curriculum, that we can train more aware drivers before they ever get behind the wheel. By the time they leave school, the curriculum allows for them to be safer and aware drivers. So inform training materials, inform better road designs that are more forgiving and cater for human error. And better enforcement mechanisms as well. That's what we're trying to achieve with this research.
So research, how long will it go on for?
Right now, we're hoping it will be in the final year because now we have our preliminary results and we're going to be taking it to DOT now. Yes. Yes, to pilot test on an actual public road. We did the study now inside the CSIR campus. Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very impressive.
They made me to drive one day, President,
and they were
the
testing
simulator.
And you
I
came
was
out
horrified. You came out worse.
DMs, he came out worse.
For us, it's the safety, but people must be aware.
Indeed. It's very good.